Hello and welcome to episode 27 of the Mandarin Blueprint podcast. Luke here. So I'm just going to start off by updating you with, well, there's only really one thing that would interest you, the audience. I mean, there's always loads of stuff going on, but I don't want to bore you with the inner workings of our business and stuff like that. But the only thing that you want to be interested in is we just finished putting together the phrases. We're thinking about what to call the deck. I just call them phrases at the moment. But they are what I originally found on, it was a website for, I believe, Czech, to learn Czech. This guy, Anthony Lauda, came up with something called conversation connectors. And we did used to give away a small Anki deck with automated audio. Basically, let me explain what they are. So conversation connectors are phrases that you can use either at the beginning, the middle, or the end of your speech in Chinese, or just standalone phrases that sort of connect the conversation together. And they're sort of, rather than everything else that we sort of teach you where it's more of a sort of mass exposure and you gradually pick things up and you understand pretty much everything you read, what we were doing with these is they're very top down. They might contain characters you don't know, but learn these phrases. And they're things like, well, the only thing left to do is, or, well, the thing about that is, or, well, that's what he told me anyway. You know, things like that. I don't know, they're not great examples, but things that we all say all the time without even realizing it. And even in our own native language, they're used to give ourselves a little bit of extra time to think of the next thing to say. And it sounds really natural. And they're just perfect for fluency. So if you're not, like most people, I guess, if you're sort of struggling to get to that fluency level, and maybe you find it difficult to speak, I mean, we all do, right? And on occasion at least, then you can throw out a few of these conversation connectors. And we're thinking about calling them something else, but I think that's an awesome word, to be honest. And but anyway, the point is, I've made a list of these, and we've got Jerry to come in and do the audio, the same guy from the mail from our flashcards, and they sound incredible. 420 phrases. There's too much, to be honest. Like, we don't really need that many, but I just found this huge list. I paid a translator to translate this huge list of phrases. I threw out the ones that aren't really useful or that are kind of repetitions, and we've got Jerry to record them. And we've put them together now into an Anki deck, and the Anki deck's ready. And I said I'd get it ready before June the 1st. I replied to one of our clients on Facebook actually about that recently. So it's ready to go. But what we wanted to do with it was introduce the conversation connectors as another layer to the course. Now, I know we're trying to expand the course, and we don't want to throw another spanner in the works. It's going to delay that even more. But I just think it would be really cool. I mean, I can give you guys the Anki deck, and I'd be happy to listen to you guys' suggestions on that. Do you want to just have the Anki deck right now, or would you like us to sort of spend the extra time, maybe another month or so, implementing it into the course, so you actually unlock these phrases once you understand pretty much all of the characters within each phrase? I'm thinking the former. At the moment, we just release the Anki deck to all of you as sort of a bonus, or we put it somewhere within the course, and we send an email just for you guys, just you listeners, and you people that are on the course, and you can download it straight away, and you can start using it as sort of a really heavily top-down way. Because again, a lot of the characters and words you wouldn't understand in them, or you wouldn't maybe have learned yet, but they're just so useful. And so almost all of them are spoken. Some of them are written, like formal, but they're just so great. And I kind of want to do that. I think that's what we'll do. But I want to hear you guys' opinion on that. So let me know by email or by some sort of comment on the podcast actual post here. So yeah, so I think what I'm sort of leaning towards is I'll just announce it to everyone like I said I would, and here, download this 100 megabyte file, this Anki deck with all these awesome phrases, and then once we've expanded the course, or at the same time, we will create a new level or a new layer. So at the moment we have We have conversation. No, sorry, that's what I'm talking about. We have conversations. We have short stories. We have opinions, and we have full stories. And you unlock these as you go, and paragraphs, of course. So this is going to be, conversation connectors. It's going to be a new layer to that. It's going to be a new thing you unlock. I think that'd be really cool. But we can't do everything at once, and I did say I'd release it, so I think we'll do that. But let's hear what you guys think. We have, I said this last time, we have tons of comments though this time, so I don't want to blabber on too much about other stuff. I want to sort of just jump straight into it, so that's what we'll do. So as usual, we're going to go through, it's not your traditional podcast. Anyone who's listening for the first time, a lot of it is directly related, or most of it is just answering questions and comments from our clients and people that are on the course, both the free pronunciation course and the paid subscription course as well. And we're going to start off by talking about props. And again, if you don't know what props are, actors are, sets are, there's a link just below the title in the show notes for these podcasts that will tell you everything you need to know about it. Okay, so first we have here William EDMEADES with the prop for xiang, which means a few things. But I guess here, I don't have the definition in front of me, but I guess it means each other or sort of mutually, like 相互, 互相, or 相见. And he's chosen yin yang for this. Yin yang, the yin yang symbol, which works really well. This is one of those things where it has to be a physical object, right? So I used to have a keyring of that. So I would imagine a giant version of that metal yin yang that I can actually touch. Really good. Another one from William, it's prop for he, which is a sort of wheat. And it's a very rare character. It's hardly used alone at all. But it's, again, more of a component in other characters. He's chosen a giant piece of Weetabix. William, you must be British. Weetabix, breakfast of champions. Again, it's made of wheat, obviously. Brilliant. And Jennifer KOSCHE on pick a prop for xiong, as in older brother. She says, I'll use Thor's hammer, Mjölnir, as a prop for xiong. In the Marvel movies, he is the older brother to Loki. So I think this will work pretty well. What do you think? Well, I answered to Jennifer, like, why not just Thor himself? Unless he's already an actor. Because it's one step removed. Now, that's no big problem. I mean, again, we always just say these things as general guidelines, as I always say. But I'd say, yeah, 1 degree of separation is unnecessary. I'm sure you could find an older brother himself. You can use the older brother himself. If you're already using Thor for something, maybe choose a different older brother, Bart Simpson or whatever. But either way is fine. Next prop is from AMRAHI on pick a prop for Zhou, meaning to leave or to walk. I guess walk would be slightly more common. She's chosen a 3-strap boot. And she's given the link there if you want to know what that looks like. But that's going to be fine because that's pretty much directly related to walk, isn't it? So excellent. And another one on the prop for dai, which means a couple of things. It can mean to stay. It can also mean dumb. And that's funny because it's usually when you have a character with 2 very different definitions, it's usually the 2 definitions have a different pronunciation. But dai is one of those interesting ones where it's very versatile. She picked Walter, Jeff Dunham's puppet, because one of his favorite phrases is dumb ass. And he has a potty mouth. The character itself looks like there's something in the middle of a person too, the ventriloquist hand. Very interesting. Yeah, good. It's got this sort of line that goes through the middle. And it does kind of look like a little person, little wooden person. Perfect. Yeah, actually really good. And pick a prop for Cloud, Yun. Goku's flying nimbus. We had a lot of Dragon Ball Z stuff recently. It's awesome. The flying nimbus is the little cloud that Goku can fly on. I shouldn't know that. And prop for Zhu, meaning sort of master or lord, if you like. Master Shifu or Master Oogway from Kungfu Panda. I picked the latter. Master Oogway, the big turtle. Good, nice one. Excellent. And prop for Tu, meaning soil. A cross on a grave, those big sort of stone crosses. Very nice. The prop for Jan, as in to occupy. Now this is it's a very abstract meaning. And again, we like to say, what's the first thing you think of when you think of that meaning? And Jan, as in to occupy. We've got knight chess piece is another one that I like. Very good. Very good indeed. You have a big version of like that horse sort of chess piece. And pick a prop for nay, as in inside. Another abstract meaning. So how can you make the abstract real, tangible, a 3D object or person or animal or whatever? She's gone with sadness from inside out. Fantastic. Will Henry on pick a prop for Yun, again, the cloud. He said, oh, I remember this one. After trying to create a few scenes using that floating cloud that would pull your car back on the track from Mario Kart, I decided just to start filling my scenes with smoke or fog. This atmosphere builds a lot of tension in my stories and oftentimes provides motivation for my characters to do something out of the ordinary with the props. I really like your thinking behind this, Will. And the first thing that came to mind though was, hang on, what if, because Yun is not always on the left or the right, or it's sometimes on the bottom, sometimes on the left, sometimes on the right. How do you show positioning with just fog, I wonder? Maybe it's like a fog machine, or the fog clearly comes from one side or from below or from, you see what I mean? So, but I'm sure you've already figured that out in your head, just doesn't seem clear from the description here, but that's absolutely fine. Usually we say, for that reason, for the positioning issue, we usually say a sort of fixed, tangible object, relatively fixed. You know, it could change in size and maybe even color, but generally it's identifiable, and you can pick it up and interact with it solidly. But again, only guidelines. So good. I like your improvisation there. I wonder why you changed it though. Was it not working? Maybe just wanted to change it up. Another thing just to remember for other people is changing this is really tempting to do as well. This is why we put so much time into telling you guys, carefully walking you through, and go with your first instinct and stick with it. Because if you end up, it's okay to change a few things here and there, but if you're not making that a habit, you can imagine it's going to get very confusing. So you try and think of your 6 month later self. Think of yourself, what's that Mario Kart cloud compared to that fog? Like, you might forget which one's which, or that one means anything. You might be fine now, but what about 6 months later or a year later? I still use these, by the way. I did this like 4 years ago now, or longer, or 5 years ago. And I still use this technique. I still go back and revisit my old stories to try and remember characters. Especially for writing them, because that's one of the first things that fades away if you don't review. So, yeah, and I still go back to, Jennifer Aniston in the kitchen or whatever, So, yeah, just something to think about. Nathalie DEVIA on pick a prop for Xiong again. I do not have an older brother, but my mum does. She's gone for her mother's brother. Nice. And some of you might be thinking, yeah, but what about if Jiu, as in Jiu, your mum's brother, your uncle, which is also going to be a prop way later on, maybe in the next round actually, that we expand on. But what about then? Well, Nathalie can just come up with another uncle that will be that. It's no big deal. Julian Laffey for pick a prop for Xiao, I believe. Oh man, that's another quite rare character. Xiaoshun. Yeah. He chose Lisa Simpson. Very good choice. She's very Xiaoshun. So filial piety or obedience. Excellent. Tom on pick a prop for Cole. The Cheshire Cat. So Cole's mouth, and we just go choose someone with a big mouth, or someone that's, like, I don't want to get sued or anything, but Mick Jagger. I mean, we always use Mick Jagger as like an example. Tom on pick a prop for, that's exactly the same. So rereading that one. William again on prop for tool, as in soil. He's gone for the cube soil from Minecraft. Excellent. I really like when people use computer games, because it's a good way of making what feels like often a waste of time into something that's useful. There's some real stuff we can explore there with computer games. And again, it's probably going to fall on deaf ears to those that don't care about computer games or anything. And I'm trying to wean myself off them because it is, in my mind, a waste of time. It is. It's good to relax and stuff, but I can easily go overboard with them. And finding stuff from what you enjoy, the whatever media it is, whether it's movies, computer games, comics, and utilizing that in your mind. What do you like? What do you love? What do you spend your time entertaining yourself with? Use that in your stories. Cube soil from Minecraft. Nice. Ryan Smith on Pick a Prop for Bao, as into report or a newspaper it could be. Hogwarts letter with its H wax seal. Heavy parchment envelope, lots of senses going on there. And distinctive crest works great as a prop that stands out for this. Well done. So next we have Ryan Smith for Pick a Prop for Yuan, which I guess it kind of represents a couple of things. But what we went for is beginning. As in Gongyuan, like BC, A light tree from drag racing, the vertical bank of lights that count down to the launch for drag racing. It's a great representation of beginning. Ryan Smith, again, on Pick a Prop for Wan, which means to finish. So this is great. I love it. I love when this happens. And this often happens because of the way we've structured the character order, or Oklo. The character order is structured around not just to introduce the most amount of words to you, to unlock the most amount of new words, but also to group the components together, the prop. So once you learn a prop, we make sure that you use it at least once or twice. Sometimes you use it a bunch of times. And what that means is, similar to Heisig's method, this is what we based it on, you'll learn one thing like yuan, like that component, and then you'll combine it with a bunch of other components. So they often end up, the scenes themselves end up relating to each other. And because of that issue, you also have actors being used over and over again in a row, because when the components are similar, the pronunciation is also similar. So you're either in the same set or using the same actor, or both. And that's quite cool. So you can just sort of relate a stream of scenes together in some way. Like they're a series of, you know what I'm saying? So Brian Smith has done that here. So previously he chose that starting lights, and for Wan, it uses Yuan as a prop in that character, but we're also asking you to chunk that together for a new prop, so Wan as a whole. So and that means to finish, so he's chosen the checkered flag in racing that symbolizes finishing. Brilliant. And that will happen naturally for a lot of you. It sounds like, oh, this is really complicated. No, it will just be a natural thing, like as I'm sure it was to Ryan. So that's all the props we have for today. It's a lot more than usual, which I really like. We've got people are really starting to help each other out, and just making it so much easier for future clients, for future users is brilliant. And it's exactly what we were sort of gambling on. We put so much of, hey, comment below in the videos, and we didn't know how much people would want to comment, or if but it's just been great. It's great to see this. So keep it up, guys, really. And if anyone's listening that hasn't shared anything yet, one line, one suggestion. If you think you've got something unique, or just doesn't have to be unique, just something that works really well for you, comment below any video on the course and tell us why, or just comment. People really need that inspiration. Okay, so actors. AMRAHI on casting call for Zhu. So it's a U, so it should be a fictional with a J sort of sound. Peppa Pig. That's close enough, Peppa Pig. And she's written the Chinese as well. 小猪佩奇. Peppa Pig. I like that. Very nice. Zhu. Maybe that's Zhu because Zhu is pig. I don't know what you're thinking there, Ija, but I like it. Casting call for Tu, and then another fictional actor with a T. She's Ija's given us a bunch of new suggestions. Tony the Tiger, Tintin. It's what my Chinese friends call me, actually, before I started really going bold and shaving my head. Timmy Turner, Fairly Odd Parents, brilliant. Tom and Jerry, Thomas the Tank Engine. Ija always, she's going to be our expert fictional character sort of participant. She's given us so many good suggestions so far. Chad on casting call for Su, so another fictional. Xiaofeng, or Xiaofeng, I don't know what the tones are there. Ling Gengxin's character in the movie Swordmaster, brilliant. Chad is always giving us really good Kung Fu and Chinese TV show suggestions. Casting call for Wu Wally, so it's another fictional with a W sound, brilliant. Jay Anderson on casting call for Zhu, another fictional. They're all fictional today. This is it actually. Zapod Beeblebrox from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and in brackets we've got the original BBC production, not the terrible 2005 movie. Thanks for clarifying that. Big difference. And that's it. That's it actually for actors for this week. Let's jump into movies. So this is sort of our favorite bit, because this is where it all comes together. So for movies, the first one we've got is from Tom on Make a Movie for Tong, which I believe is like one of the first batch of characters. So let's see how Tom does. I chose my secondary school as my set for Ong, and the entry of the reception as the second tone location. Christopher Walken introduces himself to the receptionist so that he can get a visitor's badge. The receptionist tells him that he has to answer a few questions before she can let him in the school. The first question she asks him is, "Where are you from?" And Christopher Walken stands there completely baffled and, in typical Christopher Walken voice, says, "Shall I do it? I'm going to try. A lady? What? No, I'm not going to do it. Where do you think I'm from?" Nah, I can't do it, Christopher Walken, man. Everyone seems to be able to except me. The receptionist looks up from her desk to see that he's wearing a suit made of an American flag, and behind him there are cowboys and Indians battling it out around two giant teepees, shooting arrows and firing guns at each other. Now, I'm a huge fan of Christopher Walken, so I actually just commented on this. Awesome scene. And it is. Teepees is what he's chosen. So he hasn't gone with umbrella, he's gone with teepees, which is fine, because it looks exactly the same. So two teepees, and we've got Christopher Walken like, from, where do you think I'm from? And that works, even though it's pretty much all audio, but the body language there and the fact that he's talking to a receptionist, and that's someone that is likely to ask that question, especially in a school, right? Brilliant. It would just work so well. Keep it up, Tom. Ija on Make a Movie for Shi, as in time. This is interesting because, well, I'll explain. So she says she used a sundial to represent time. So that was like her object that she brought in which is fine, you know. We usually try and say don't bring in objects unless it's that aren't the props or the actor, unless it's directly related to the keyword connection. Like you're trying to show the keyword through this object, and even then it can still be risky. You might still confuse yourself or whatever. But sundial is a brilliant idea to bring in. Scene involved an ancient Chinese stone sundial in my kitchen, and Sean Connery was using the sun and measuring tape to measure time. Now, this is the reason why I said this is interesting, is because this character is actually representative of a sundial. You know, you have sun on the left, well, your guys' left, and inch. So that's how they represented time, by the inches the sun was moving, the shadow of the sun, right? I don't think Ija actually knew this, but she's sort of just instinctively gone for that. And she chose an ancient Chinese stone sundial as well, which is just even more coincidental. Another one from Ija is on Make a Movie for Me, as in, well, it could mean either rice or meter. It's the most common meanings. Mariah Carey, her personal nickname is Mimi, so that sort of connects more to the pronunciation, is in my bedroom wanting to re-record the music video for All I Want for Christmas Is You. She already had the reindeer antlers on, that would be the horns, I guess, on top of the Christmas tree. But since my home is in Southeast Asia, there's no snow. We had to toss rice around to mimic snow. That's so good. That's so good. That's all I can say to that. And you got like the music in there as well, just to spice it all up. Brilliant. Can't think of anything better. But let's see if you can beat it, guys, listening. Ija on Make a Movie for Dai. Are you, again, we're going back here. So we've got the prop from earlier. That was after the movie. So let's see what she did to actually learn it. So it's made up of mouth and tree. I used the song Dumb Ways to Die as the soundtrack for this movie. So she didn't actually describe the movie, but she's saying one of the meanings for this is dumb. and she's chosen that idea for as like a theme tune for this. And Dumb Wasted Eye is a very cute and interesting. So I think it was a thing done by, it was in Australia originally, for preventing train accidents, like people getting injured on train tracks. And it's just a really catchy tune. And I listened to it like once, like a year or two ago, and I still remember it. So brilliant. Another example of good sort of theme tune to add into the background. Jodie Parr make a movie for ban, as in half. I'm in Japan, so an as the set location, using that word to connect with it. I imagine it's like an apartment or some sort of other location in Japan somewhere that she knows. My nephew Ben, as in B, is standing in the bathroom holding a large syringe, and the devil is trying to grab the syringe. I throw the razor blade at the devil, and it cuts his horns off. He feels like half a devil now, and I guess he's showing that with his sort of, maybe he looks a bit emasculated or sad. Ben is mad at the devil and sticks him with a syringe that is filled with a liquid that shrinks the devil to half his size. So that's a good idea, Jodie. Sort of doing, sort of running the idea into the ground a bit, you know. So don't just show the meaning once, show it twice just for good measure, or even 3 times, you know. Show it in different ways if you can. Don't strain yourself to do that, guys. But that's brilliant. In case one, because you know, it's just sort of if it comes to you easily, and you can sort of show it in a different way, it's like insurance against forgetting it in Anki later. So brilliant. Make a movie for T, as in to raise a question or to sort of carry something at your side here. Words are out in the, EJ. You should be. Are you some sort of writer? Very, very interesting scenes. I like the way you write them. Words are out in the street that Shakespeare is currently taking questions in my kitchen from people from the 21st century. Shakespeare would be, the sh. Yeah, so this is an idea that we had for sh, as in to be. Again, it's an abstract meaning. Sh as a prop, sort of to be or not to be. So have Shakespeare or Hamlet or a skull, you know. Anyway. Shakespeare's taking questions. He, who hasn't had any interviews in almost 400 years, was very excited to share his insights in the English language and literature. A big crowd started to form. Tina Turner tried to grab his attention by Tina Turner's the T-I, by the way. Tried to grab his attention by waving the giant foam finger, which is the left side component. She then asked cheekily, "Sorry to bring this up, but if I have to carry just one pencil around, should it be..." Sorry. Should it be to be or not to be? I don't know why that's so funny. Brilliant. So you've got Aegis just doesn't even need, she's just doing stuff she doesn't even need to. I just love that idea of she's just sitting there adding jokes into her scenes that are completely unnecessary. But just for the entertainment of myself and others. That's brilliant. Oh man. Sorry, I've got a weakness for puns. So funny. All right. Let's collect myself here. So Ryan Smith on Make a Movie for Duh. This that's what's the meaning of the that's the meaning of the character. It's this is a pretty abstract concept. So to conceptualize it, I'm envisioning the bathroom of my E set with a large number of roads going through it. Okay, so there's a large number of roads in your bathroom. The Queen of England keeps picking a road to walk down, but my Uncle J, that's the ZH component, initial, keeps repositioning her to walk down the road he's on, i.e. this road is what he's trying to tell her. To cement the meaning, she picks a random road wrong multiple times, and he keeps trying to get her to walk down this road that he's in. And of course, gestures, body language, facial, this one, that would be very, very important in this sort of abstract scene. So I guess, yeah, obviously the when component, meaning culture or literature, must be the Queen must represent that. I'm not sure exactly. It kind of works for me, but I'm sure Ryan, as long as it works for Ryan, that's all good. Brilliant. Yeah, very simple. And, you know, you don't need these elaborate, crazy things going on. In fact, as we always say, keep it simple. Not only does that make it easier, it's actually easier to remember when it's just a simple two people interacting in a human way, and maybe a slightly humorous way or a weird way, fine, but just normal, down to earth. That, believe it or not, that is where, as long as it has emotional content in it, you know, a confused old queen trying to figure out which road, and he's sort of gently guiding her on which one. It's a, you know, that's what really brings the memories to life. And that's not what we originally were doing. Actually, when we started out teaching this, we were always just like, no, imagine, you know, people are exploding and killing each other and they're naked. You know? Not because we're weirdos, but because that's how you start off. That's how like novices do this stuff, or at least think they should do it. But the real pros at this, they use human interaction, emotions, real emotions, and maybe they spice it up a little bit, you know, here and there. And maybe it's a bit weird and definitely not something you'd find in real life, but it's not fanciful to the point where your brain won't believe it. You know, that's what really works for these guys. And we're talking, when I say these guys, I mean like the memory champions or the memory athletes of the world. Okay, so the next one is from William EDMEADES. And I had to read this a couple of times to be like, to figure out what he meant. But then I remembered the previous podcast. So I'll explain it for you guys if you don't get it. So William said to make a movie for Zhong, which means kind or type of, which is very abstract. And his props are Weetabix, giant Weetabix, which we've already established, and a dartboard. So they're the two props. Dartboard is Zhong, middle, right? Works. And he said, going off what Ryan said, so what Ryan said, if you look at the comment on this character, Ryan, he's sort of type or kind, you know, it's very abstract. So he's sort of gone with typewriters, typing. So it's a way of representing it. And we don't suggest doing that for everything. Like, again, we want to keep it as few degrees of separation from the actual meaning as possible. But if you really can't think of anything else, fine, you know. We did a similar thing for sentence, you know, 句子, sentence. We chose a judge sentencing someone instead of the actual, because it's so hard to imagine a sentence, you know. Anyway, you get the idea. So I'm just explaining that for you guys listening so you know what he's talking about. So he says, I'm having my ZH actor at my university, because we have a ping pong table, that's the ONG, in the library, and he's typing furiously trying to get this programming code to work. After some failed attempts, he gets so frustrated he picks up the giant Weetabix and hurls it at the dartboard across the room. So yeah, he's typing, that's the whole thing. It's not the actual type. So yeah, that works absolutely fine. Next one is Will Henry on Make a Movie for S, as in to control or take charge of, take in charge, I think. Let's double check. My S character, my supervisor, nice, is lying on the front lawn of my childhood home. A lobster claw is clamped down. That's like the sort of broken component on the side, is clamped down on his lip, and I have to operate to remove it using only a razor blade. Nice. I know I was supposed to use a Rolling Stone's mouth, but the visual of a claw being painfully attached to his actual swollen mouth was so vivid. I'll see if the scene sticks and reshoot it if I forget the mouth radical. I like the exactly. That's actually something that we didn't. I don't think we really used that whole phrase because we've gone for the movie style throughout the whole course, right? But I don't think we really used reshoot it. I can't remember at least if we have or not. That's really cool. Yeah, just reshoot the scene, right? So, maybe this won't work. Maybe it will. Rather than spending, you know, minutes of your life or even tens of minutes, like painstakingly trying to create the scene, if you don't have the inspiration to do it a certain way, just try it without. Maybe you can bend or even break the rules sometimes. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You just reshoot it, and it takes seconds to reshoot it in Anki. It takes a long time to explain them, as you can tell, and to walk through these scenes, but it takes seconds to imagine it. So excellent idea, Will, to do that. Julian Laffey on Make a Movie for Jur, a bride who says I do. So Jur is a person who does something. It's kind of one of those. It's hard to sort of hard to define, but it often means just a person the person who's doing something. And he's chosen a bride because they say, I do. I like it. Works for me. So again, that's sort of representing the meaning. So it's not, he hasn't gone through his whole movie here, but he's just giving an idea for keyword connections to the people who are looking at the lesson. So that's great. Make a movie for ba. She said, Nathalie DEVIA says, something that reminds me of the number 8 is the 8 pool ball. Yeah, which I think is one of our suggestions actually. But yes, is a very, very, very visual way of representing that number. And again, from Nathalie, make a movie for R. Captain Hook is great because he has to be with Peter Pan, and Peter Pan never grew up. He's still a kid. Yeah, excellent. Good, good connection there for R, I guess. I mean, if he's with Peter Pan, I mean, you could just imagine Peter Pan. I mean, I don't know why Hook needs to be there, but again, if that's what comes to your mind first, within reason, go for it. Julia Melnick on make a movie for shi, as in 知识, like knowledge. I like Nick's choice of actors. Nick, if you take the course, he's just he's got a lot of fans actually. Like the people really like Nick's videos, and so do we. Some of them are a bit R-rated, so if we want to make this 100% suitable for young kids and stuff, we'd have to edit him out, unfortunately. But yeah, he's got a very interesting take on movies and props and stuff. The next one is from William EDMEADES on make a movie for G, as in to note down or to remember something actively. In a sort of meta idea for my scene for G, I'm having my female actor trying to remember her MBM scene, Mandarin Blueprint Method scene for remember. That's really good. That is meta. That's freaking me out. Good. Well done. And again, it just goes to show you how effective, because all that would be is the female actor just showing body language, showing facial, using her, as we call it in the course, acting skills to accentuate that meaning. That's all you need. Again, emotional content is much more effective than explosions and all that other stuff. So the next movie here is from Chad. He's in his current home where he got engaged. That's his connection to ENG there. His actor is Fan Bingbing. The props are demon horns and a bottle opener. That's Kai. Yeah, excellent. Fan Bingbing has fallen on hard times. Now, oh, by the way, Bing means to combine. It means a few things, and we chose combine as one of it. Its keyword connection, because it seemed to be to us to be the most tangible of the keyword meanings, and it is a common usage as well. So Fan Bingbing has fallen on hard times and now has her own DIY show on HGTV, where she takes everyday items, combines them, and tries to pawn them off as ancient Chinese decorations. She is shooting her latest episode in the backyard of my current home, where she has combined a set of demon horns with an old Pabst Blue Ribbon bottle opener, and is now trying to pawn it off as an ancient Chinese demon artifact worth $10,000. Fortunately, I have Rick Harrison from Pawn Stars, P-A-W-N, to those listening, with me. He takes a look at it and shows me how she has simply combined the two items by welding them, and explains that they didn't have that kind of technology in ancient China. And then he offers her $5 for it. Ah, Chad, you should actually write movies. Oh man, I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to name this episode something like "You guys are getting it." You guys are really getting it. Some hilarious movies today. Michael Horn on Michael Horn. Okay, I don't know what we've got a mistake there. Obviously, Bill Shatner enters the main room of the library where I currently work, library, and he's smoking a clay pipe. That's the horizontal line, and chasing his pet Arctic fox, which represents Bai. The fox runs across the library and jumps up onto the shelf where the philosophy books are, which are classified under 100 in the Dewey Decimal System. And that's something that would be completely useless to me as a movie, but was obviously very useful to Michael because yes, you work in the library, so that would be, again, that's why I love these movies and I love you guys' content, is because, and believe it or not, this is very helpful to people reading, even if they don't work in a library, Michael, because they know that if they can choose things that are very personal to their lives. So that would work only for you or other people that work in that specific library. Brilliant. And I've got no issues at all with your scene. Ryan Smith on Make a Movie for 字, as in letter. A fun way for me to visualize the meaning of this in a 3D way is to imagine my Z actor, Ozzy Osbourne, and my 字 prop, that means kid from Home Alone, using their bodies to make the shapes of letters of the alphabet. I can just imagine Ozzy Osbourne doing that in his weird way. Brilliant. Excellent. All right, so that's pretty much everything related to the Hands Up Movie Method, our character learning course, or technique rather. Now we're going to move on to any questions or comments related to the pronunciation, either the course itself or just general pronunciation questions. So the first thing we've got here is from Joshua Petty on a simple final A quiz. He says, I'm confused. I know you guys said that pa sounds like the A in cat, though when I say father, the pa sounds the same. Well, I can only assume in that case that, I mean, the reason why I chose cat, because maybe Americans say more like cat, but it's very similar. It's to the British in the word cat. And I'm basing it on the majority of our audience, which is native English speakers from, the UK, America, Canada, and Australia. Cat, maybe not Australia, but cat, yeah. I mean, pa, cat, pa, cat. I remember responding to Joshua, just being like, well, if it is different from the way we say it in English, it's the difference is minute, and I can't really think. I mean, it sounds the same to me. And father, I mean, I don't know of any native English accent. Again, please, guys, comment and correct if I'm wrong here. But that say father, like it doesn't. I don't know of any accent that says that's English based. He says pa. I think does not sound like cat, bat, and rat. Pa, cat. Cat. I mean, it's as close as it could be, I think. Did I misunderstand? Thank you for taking the time to look over this. I will watch the videos again. Haha, it seems I might have been saying the A wrong this whole time. I mean, yeah, it's tough for me to say. Maybe I'm too much in my own head here. But I thought about that a lot. Because I remember actually whilst doing the live class, I got really... This is, because we were working this pronunciation stuff out. It took us a long time to figure it all out, and we researched everything heavily. And we did a lot of hours, hundreds of hours of live classes to correct and make sure that we had it right. And I remember being heavily embarrassed once because I said, oh yeah, the A in Chinese is pronounced like father, like ong, and I found out eventually, and they were just like, no, it's not. This beginner commented, he's like, what about pa? And then I had to research further, and I found there's actually 3 different A pronunciations in Chinese. And because embarrassment can, definitely be a good motivator to get things right. Cat, pa, bat, da. It's the same to me. It's just that A is the same. If it is different, it's very slightly, and there's nothing closer in English anyway to compare it to. So you're only in Unit 1, so maybe continue on. And if it's still an issue, contact me, and I'll be happy to walk you through it personally, or talk through it personally with you. Kathleen Gans on Special Final R quiz. Is there a PDF or audio for R? I couldn't find it. And the answer is no, because R, if you look at the pinyin chart, it's a little lonely pronunciation just by itself. It doesn't combine with anything else. I mean, it does, but it doesn't combine with any other initials. It only combines with whole syllables. So it's not worth, it's just R. R, just, it's not worth talking about, really. So, yeah, we didn't bother with that one. The next comment here is from Joshua Petty for Unit 1. On pronunciation mastery again. I've been studying Chinese for a little over 2 years, all self-taught. I can read quite well, but when I try to branch it over into oral speaking, my co-workers do not know what I am saying. I look forward to this course and thank you for making it free. It allows people like me to see how you guys teach before buying. Depending on how this course goes, I'll probably purchase the other course, even though I'm sure that I know all of the characters, just to patch up any holes in the sinking ship I've made for myself. Sounds similar to me, mate. When I was starting out with Chinese, and it's probably a lot to do with pronunciation, but it's also probably to do with the way you're learning words as well. Because I had a similar issue. My pronunciation was always pretty much good from the start because I worked so hard on it in the beginning, but people still didn't understand me because I didn't read and listen appropriately. And that's what inspired both Phil and I to make this course the way it is, to focus on listening and reading and get pronunciation done and out the way first. So it's a combination of things, but I'm sure if we've worked for a long time to make sure that it solves that issue. I'm sure if you work your way through the course, you'll discover people will stop giving you weird looks or even laughing when you're speaking Chinese. At least that's what my motivation was for making it. Garth Gresky on nasal final en, and bun. Luke is the cross-cultural bridge builder extraordinaire. It gives me way better theories about the other than I could ever make up myself. Thanks, Garth. You've given us a few quite inspirational comments there. I really like it. Throughout the pronunciation course, I tried to say as much as I could about cultural tidbits, and we definitely plan on creating an entire course dedicated just to Chinese cultural differences and negotiating in China, or not necessarily negotiating. That might be a separate course, because in business it's very important to understand, because it's all connected. Understanding the cultural things that even a lot of Chinese people don't know. That aren't in certain they don't work in certain fields and such stuff like that. But yeah, I really want to get into that, because I think that's another whole market in itself of people that not necessarily want to learn the language, because there's a lot of people that speak Chinese already but don't know how to interact with Chinese people in certain situations. And I was one of them. I've still got a lot to learn about that. So yeah, we're definitely once we've figured out some things. There's a lot of stuff we're doing at the moment, and once we've started expanding the course and we've got that expansion out, I want to start working on some other video courses, and that will definitely be one of the first on the list. Cultural understanding, definitely there. Okay, so John Hay, a legend that we recently did a case study with, says, hi guys, I've just listened to podcast 22. I couldn't agree with you more on your decision to integrate the pronunciation mastery into Mandarin Blueprint course, the Mandarin Blueprint course. Quite right. Don't sell yourselves too cheap. Many years ago, my boss and I decided to attend a quit smoking seminar. Guaranteed success, in quotation marks. I'm sure that everyone there that evening did, at least for a while, stop smoking. The very fact that they had made the effort to turn up, and more importantly, that they were prepared to pay the not-so-small fee, it was almost a guarantee of success in itself. My boss paid for me to go, so I went along, but was obviously not as committed, and surprise, surprise, carried on smoking after a few days. The lesson learned: if you really want to do something, you have to be committed, skin in the game. Similarly, if you really want to learn Mandarin and are prepared to pay for it and put in the effort, you will. If I had found a Teach Yourself Chinese for free course on the net, I might have looked at it out of interest, but I would still not be learning today. I would not be still learning today. It's a bit like going out for a meal. If someone invites you, you'll eat and say thank you. But having paid for it himself, the fat guy at the all-you-can-eat buffet will make damn sure he gets his money's worth. I recently looked at some other Chinese learning sites and was surprised at the prices of that some of them charge. In comparison, you offer much more for much less. Hopefully one day, when you have really established yourself on the market, you can raise or restructure your prices. You're too modest, thank you. But don't hike up your fees until you're sure that all the spelling mistakes, Phil, just kidding. It's all of us, I'm sure. Translation errors, misplaced text, etc. have been reviewed, including those on the Anki cards. What at least one site does have, which you don't, is a writing course. Okay, you can't do everything at once, but it would be maybe worth considering including a short course for the future. Now, I assume that, John, you're talking about calligraphy and more actually writing in, not necessarily writing like prose or something like that. One in which the finer points which an absolute beginner is unaware might miss. You explained well enough the general principles of writing in Chinese characters 101. But for me, that's our ebook, by the way. For me, there was something missing, something more visual or tangible. Sure, while working through all the Anki cards, I managed to write a character and I do my best, but I've only recently realized what a disastrously illegible scribbles I had produced. I recently concentrated a bit more on writing and have produced some sheets which I find to be of great help. I don't think that it's in anyone's interest to go back to primary school to repeatedly practice characters, but without wanting to interfere in your teaching methods, maybe sheets like those I've sent you, downloadable alongside each level of the course, might be useful for your pupils. Just an idea. So I'll stop waffling now and get back to work. You too, keep up the good work, John Hay. So thanks a lot, John, and absolutely. And you're right, we can't do everything, but we do need to do that. We do need to focus at least a bit and add that sort of aspect into it. So maybe some writing practice sheets at the very least, you know. But that's an example of what I'm talking about. You know, we first want to expand the course, get it up to at least 1,500 characters or at least 1,200 characters, double it, and then we can maybe focus on other video courses that are sort of attached to the main course. So thanks for that. As a very informative, and I completely agree. You know, you need to have skin in the game, and that's. The pronunciation mastery course is still going to be available until July 1st. We've actually extended it now to July 1st to make sure everyone has enough time and they're aware of it all before we make it a part of the Mandarin Blueprint method of paid subscription. Kate from email says, Ni hao, I'm enjoying working on the pronunciation units and will be subscribing as soon as I finish those. I wanted to let you know about a technical problem with Anki. Well, we'll skip that bit. We actually figured that out anyway. I look forward to subscribing soon. I have to say that the analogies with music really resonate with me. That's Phil. He's a musician himself. I play flute, and I believe that has made it easier to learn pronunciation, as I feel I'm just learning a new embouchure. I don't know what that is. I'm not as cultured as you. The subtle variations in tone are easier to hear with my musical training. I actually became interested in learning Mandarin when I was taking several Chinese scientists on a geology field trip in the US. The trip involved driving long distances across the American Southwest to get to various sites. I spent 3 weeks immersed in hearing them speak while I drove. They helped me learn some pronunciations and a few geology terms. I also spent months using Google Translate to translate Chinese geology journal articles. That sounds fun. The characters became very familiar, and I started learning how they often are written so that it makes you think of the word differently. Absolutely. For example, wrap plus drop equals ladle, or woman and child, or shao, I guess she means. Woman and child equals good. That was 7 years ago, and I've tried to learn things off and on, going through Pleco and making flashcards, etc., but haven't progressed at all. I now have a motivation to take your course, as I will be in Shanghai in 7 weeks from now. I want to learn as much as possible before I leave. I found out about your course through an answer you posted on the Quora website. Again, that's Phil. You guys have really put a tremendous effort into learning how to teach Chinese. You have come up with a blueprint that feels very scientific, which is great. Sincerely, Kathleen. P.S. I think my cats have mastered all 4 tones plus some. I've never noticed before that they can use falling or rising tones, the third tone, the first tone. They should be learning Cantonese. Very good. Now on to our final section of the podcast here. I just decided to call this Miscellaneous. It's just general questions that aren't really related to anything on the Mandarin Blueprint, like the learning the characters themselves. They're just general Chinese questions or personal questions for us, or just suggestions for the course. So I'd call it Miscellaneous. So let's jump into it. So the first comment here is from Abigail. She says, it's a word for me, as in meter or rice. She says, I thought 88 in Chinese was ba shi ba. And this is funny, I must have made this sentence, or it was just coincidence, because that's exactly my height is 1.88 1 meter and 188 centimeters. And she's like, Abigail saying, wait a minute, 88 in Chinese is ba shi ba. Why isn't it 1.88 ba shi ba? It's just how they say it. It's how they say, I guess, decimal numbers or yeah, decimal numbers. So they'll just they won't say so 1米88 or 1米76 would be my fiance. So yeah, that's just how they do it. If you're saying the number 88 for some reason, then you would say 88, like just the number 88 or 88th or something like that. So yeah, that's how that works. Next one from William EDMEADES on It's a Word for 记. It says, does 我记下你的电话了 mean I will or I'll write down your number, or I wrote down your number? Which tense is it? And the key to this is, of course, the le. So if I said, I'm talking to someone, and I say, 我记下你的电话. 我记下你的电话. Like, that means I'll write your number down, right? But if I said le always signifies a change or a completion. So that's why it's often it's not necessarily past tense, but it's very often used in the past tense, of course, because the past tense is usually where things have changed or finished, but not always. 我记下你的电话了. That means I have written or I wrote down your number. So yeah, that's how you know that one. Linnell Glover, cool name, on 诚实, honesty. That's I believe our story, one of our stories that we have, full story. So she's doing fantastically, and yeah, this is a great example of sort of she's done incredibly well with the course, Linnell, and she's sort of done really well at translating this sentence that you can see in the show notes here. But she just hasn't managed to grasp the full meaning, and that's fine. That's going to happen occasionally. So let's have a look at it. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't say this to our writer's face, but it's not actually the best written sentence. I mean, but she only has, and it is, of course, it's grammatically accurate. Of course, she's a professional teacher, but it's from an actual writer's perspective. If a writer was looking at it, they'd think, oh, this sentence is kind of superfluous. It's 多余, that it doesn't need to necessarily be in there. But it's just a way of adding more content. So let me just show you what I mean. So we've got 三兄弟都知道. So all three brothers know 钱再多也比不上爸爸的公司. So no matter how much money, it's no amount of money can compare to their father's company. So this is one of those things. This is a single sentence. In the context of the whole story, it's about a father dying, and he's got three sons, and they're trying to decide who gets what. And he says he'll give the company to whoever takes care of a seed the best in the next 3 weeks. It's like, I believe it's an old sort of Chinese story. Anyway, 因为钱很快就用完了，但是只要有公司在，就会有钱. So that's the sentence. And she's actually translated it rather well. She said all three brothers know there's no amount of money that can compare with their dad's company, because the money will quickly be used up, but provided that there will be a company, there will be money. She's like, what does that mean? So, because what she's done is translated it directly and said, oh, well, that doesn't make much sense. But if you think about the whole context, they're basically saying this company is much better than a lump sum of money, right? So, because the money, they might be dumb and use it up, but the company will keep making money. Of course, it's a very simplistic way of looking, because obviously if they run the company badly, then it's still going to run out eventually, isn't it? But it's a story, all right? So they're basically like, oh, the sentence is trying to accentuate how important the company is, what a very big deal that is to get the company as opposed to a bit of money. So that's it, yeah. And this is a common thing, and I think partly it's to do with, like I say, the sentence is a bit superfluous. It doesn't have to be in there. It's just a way of adding more content for you. But also there's a couple of structures here that Linnell has maybe not seen before. So one of the key things is, as she mentions at the bottom here, my translation doesn't make sense. Could anyone give me a better translation? I think my problem is not quite understanding the meaning of 再多也. Yeah, so 再多, so the actual sentence is 钱再多也比不上爸爸的公司. So no matter how much money. So this 再多, again, a lot. So I can imagine you'd be like, well, if you're trying to literally translate it, it doesn't make any sense. But 再多 means like even more. So keep giving me more money doesn't matter. It's still not comparatively better than having a company that sort of makes money by itself. So like, even if you give me $1 million, the company's better because it can keep churning out money for the rest of my life, but the $1 million could be used up. So this 在 something something, yeah, they're used together a lot. It's a very interesting structure. So it's often used in the frame of never again. So it's often used 再也不. So I'll never again do something. So this is a really common one that I hear from a lot and from myself back in the day. My partying days, I guess, would be 我再也不喝酒了. 我再也不喝酒了. I will never drink again. So it's again, 多也, yeah. So again, this is an example, by the way, Linnell, of more input. If you see 在 and 也, you see that structure several more times in several different contexts. This sentence will not bother you whatsoever. You'll get it almost straight away, you know. But you've done really well to translate that all, and you're just sort of just on the edge of getting it, and I'm sure you've got it by now. So well done. Sorry, that was a bit long-winded, wasn't it, guys? But I love getting into this stuff. So J.A. Anderson, I guess, on New Vocabulary Unlocked. 正在. So any tips on when to use 在 versus 正在? They're the same, basically. 在 is to meaning continuous tense, but 正在 is like to. The only difference really is that you're exaggerating what you're doing. So someone's like, "Oh, can you get the door?" Like, I'm in the middle of dinner. 我正在吃饭呢, you know, or 我正在吃饭, whatever. So that's the only difference. Yeah, like yeah. So he says, "Oh, what's the difference?" 我在看書 versus 我正在看书 is like one's like I am reading and one's like I'm reading, you know. So yeah. Liam Wilkinson on New Vocabulary Unlocked. 几个. Is there any way to differentiate between the two usages of 几个, as in how many and a few, like the answer in the question? For example, if someone said the following, 我来中国几个月了. How do we know whether they're asking how many months we've been in China, asking the question, or just stating that we've been in China for a few months? Do we just have to work it out through context? And the answer is yes. Chinese is very contextual. I guess it's more contextual than English, but yeah, you definitely understand that in context if you think about it, right? But when would someone, you would definitely understand if you just met someone and they say, "Oh, you know," well, put it this way, right? First of all, if they were making a suggestion or like a guess, they would add "ba" on the end. 你来中国几个月了吧? Also, sorry, 你来中国几个月吧? Or 几个月了吧? Both are fine, actually. Yeah, they would add the ba to basically be like, oh, right, you know, sort of adding that on the end. But even if it wasn't, you know, yeah, you get these sort of things through context. Again, it's just similar to Linnell's. It's like more input, more speaking practice, reading, listening, you will get these things. They seem like crazy. Like, how would people know the difference? But it's so obvious after you have had a bit more mass exposure, a bit more practice. But yeah, well done. William EDMEADES on New Vocabulary Unlocked 几百. Oh, okay. So is the reason 几 is swapped for 十几 and 几百 is because 几 is like a placeholder of sorts for any number between roughly 1 and 9. And I guess the answer is yes, but I'd never thought about it that way. So thanks for that, William. Yeah, it's just think of 几 as a number between 1 or 9, I guess. 十几. Ija from email. Hi. Just wondering if anyone's having the same issue as me. Sometimes I do skip a few characters that I already know by heart, like sin, pun intended, heart, and I had to click on the white mark as complete button. I think the button itself is quite counterintuitive because the giant green buttons means click here. So sometimes I click on the complete green buttons after watching videos by instinct to mark completion, but it went back to mark as complete. Maybe better UI would be a green mark as complete button and another completed white, blue, grey button as a result. But then it may confuse the heck out of existing users. I think we can actually easily make that change to the course. It takes a few clicks. I will put a reminder to look into it, because yeah, you're right. Green is sort of like click here, and then people have already completed the lesson. And yeah, absolutely, I'll look into that, Ija, and I'll update you next week. Jordan from email. Hey Luke, because this is Phil and I sometimes just send out email blasts to people who are downloaded something. Say, hey, what's your biggest barrier to learning Chinese? And just see what they say, and just to connect with people a little bit more. And Jordan says, my biggest barrier is probably real speed listening, like native speed listening. I'm in China right now, Chengdu, brilliant. And any interaction with the local tends to be dead end. Well, that's not really a fair comparison. You're in Chengdu, like Sichuanhua, come on. I mean, we even have trouble with it on a daily basis. So almost by default, it just, my brain almost by default just shuts down. I can pick out a few words, but little meaning unless it's super basic. Nevertheless, I'm still powering through the flashcards. Thanks again for reaching out. So again, Jordan, this is all listening. So again, as long as you're comparing it to you're in the context of actual people speaking Mandarin, not speaking the local dialect, because that's a whole different ballgame. But if they're speaking Mandarin, you're having trouble, which is still really common. The only thing you can do is listen more. Find a podcast you like. Listen to our materials over and over again. Depending on what level you are, listen to individual sentences, listen to our stories, listen to actual Chinese podcasts, radio shows. Even if you don't understand, more than half of it, just stick it on in the background. Stick it on whilst you're traveling, wherever and whenever you can. And it's a gradual process. Listening takes the longest to improve on, but it's also the easiest to improve on, because it's just a matter of sticking something in your ear and just putting it on. And if you enjoy that content and you understand most of it, that's better. But it doesn't always have to be that way. But that will improve over time as long as you consistently do that every day. It doesn't have to be a strain or a strenuous thing. Just just fill this with loads of stuff. Fill your smartphone with loads of things, and get on it. Chad again from email. Hey guys, hope all is going well. Loving the new stuff, and I signed up for the affiliate program too. As anyone listening to this should as well. We've got 30%. You get 30% of any sale that you make using your individual affiliate link, and it's really easy to sign up. Just go through the work with us section on the main header of our website, and you'll find it. I was wondering about getting all the sentences in a PDF format. I did find an Anki add-on that allowed me to export the flashcards themselves, but it was a complete mess. I actually printed out the sentences for levels 13 to 15, and it was like 355 pages. I couldn't print them in a list, like a list form. It printed out all the flashcards. LOL. I'm way behind on my sentences because I'm old-fashioned, and I have found I don't like reading them on my phone. I like that hard copy where I can write and make notes, and then just add the cards to Anki a few at a time for quick reviews. Yeah, I mean, I'll talk to Phil about that. I'm not actually sure about the level of, what sort of level of labor, because as you can imagine, we've already got a million things on at the moment, and we're trying to do all these things, and I don't know if, and plus, I think we want to try and keep it as sort of closed within our control as possible, not give everything out in PDF form. But I'll talk to Phil about it. And one last comment here from Daniel Leo Simpson on it was my video on from failure to HSK6 in 1 year. So inspiring. Thank you and congratulations. Thanks. So if anyone wants to, Phil and I made about 1 hour of content, and it's some of our best content. I really like it, and I personally go into real painful detail about my failures with Chinese and then my successes later on, and just really go into detail about my story. So if you're interested, it was originally a webinar that we used to run, like a recorded webinar, but we've now changed it into an online course. So you can actually access it from our video courses section on our website. It's called Rapid Acquisition, free rapid acquisition video course, or something like that. Crash course, that's it. So go and sign up for it, and it's obviously free, and it's just everything's cut up into nice little videos for you to check out. All right, guys, that's about it for today's podcast. Thank you very much for listening. I know it was a long one today, but we had loads of great content though, and please keep it up. Anyone want to add any content? We've also got our community, so you can come and sign up and add something to the community feed, the Mandarin Blueprint community. Give your personal story or anything you like really on there, and continue to comment on the course itself, both courses. And yeah, if you've got anything personal you want to ask or comment about the course to Phil and I, then just contact@mandarinblueprint.com if you want like a really quick answer. And if you want something specifically about the podcast, then just podcast@mandarinblueprint.com. So thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you next week.